Our time with desktop publishing will soon be reaching its climax. So now's a good time to review a couple things and make you all aware of several keyboard shortcuts that will be useful to utilize. A lot of you use these already, but I want to make sure that we're all aware of them. So anyway, desktop publishing, as we know by now, refers to printed works or anything that can be printed. Doesn't mean they have to be. Like in our case, we're not actually printing our stuff out, except for what I put on the walls. But it refers to things that can be printed. Anyway, let me start off with the keyboard shortcuts. Now, we know by now that when we first go to save something, we go to File and Save As in we're saving it as a certain file name. That's what that refers to. If it's our first time saving and we click just Save, it will go to Save As automatically. Every time thereafter, we can use the keyboard shortcut Control and S to save our stuff. You want to hold Control first, then press S. Don't try to time it. Don't try to press them both at the same time, although that can work. It's always best to hold Control and then press the letter. Okay, so that saves. Now, what if we're typing and we make a mistake? Right? We just hit random keys by accident or whatever. If we hold Control and press the letter Z, we can undo our last move. In fact, we can press Control Z many times. So, you're never stuck with something. You can always go back and undo your last move. You can also go up here to do it as well. But we also have another arrow right here, Redo. So say you go back too many times. You actually press Control Z too many times. If you press Control Y, you can redo your previous, or you can redo your previous move. Yes. So Control Z equals undo, Control Y equals redo. That's going to be very useful, and some of you find it useful already. So anyway, copying and pasting is one of the best things to ever exist. That would be Control C. So whenever we highlight text or whenever we click on a picture, we press Control C, we can copy, and we can press Control V to paste. However, don't press Control P to do that because Control P is already taken up by print. So I guess paste gets stuck with V. However, there's another option called cutting, which is Control X. The difference between cutting and pasting is this. Well, first I'm going to copy this line right here with Control C. Press Control V to paste, right? Pretty straightforward. But now I'm going to press Control X here. Oh, okay. And now I'll press Control V to paste. So we can clearly tell that the difference between the two is that Control C keeps the original copy there, whereas cutting, Control X, deletes it immediately. So if you know for certain that you want the original to be gone, then you could just press Control X right away and then Control V to paste. However, copying and pasting and then deleting the original manually afterwards has the same result. But it's nice to have options in life, and that is one such option. You can remember Control X if you want to imagine the top of the X being like a pair of scissors. You're cutting, like with a pair of scissors. It's a good way to remember it. So yeah, those are the keyboard shortcuts. Let's take a look at some more publisher-specific things. You're going to be asked to create a gradient on the project portion of the publisher test. So we just need to think, well, if we're applying gradient to the background, which is what we're going to be doing, which tab will allow us to do that? We would do the Page Design tab, go there. We're working with the background. And these are pre-made gradients right here that go according to what color scheme you have selected. So if I select, opulent, the color scheme reflects that. But if we go to more backgrounds, select gradient fill, then we have complete control over the colors of this gradient. If there are extra gradient stops here, we can just delete them. Although we do have to keep the ones on the sides. Otherwise, the gradient wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be a gradient. So you notice how we can't delete those. To add a third color, just click somewhere in this bar. We can use the gradient, or I should say the color button, to change the color of that gradient, or the color of that area of the gradient. There. Now we have nice red and green. Let me just make this text white so it has better contrast. There we go. So yeah, we always start with the Page Design tab, then go to the background. It's a little bit different if you are inserting a gradient as the background of a shape, or the fill of a shape. We can go to Shape Fill, Gradient, More Gradients, and then we see a near identical menu here, and that's how we can add a gradient as the fill of a shape. So yeah, we can apply them to both. Alright, so I just want to go over erasing the background of an image. Okay, it's something we've done before, but I just want to make sure we really have that down. So I'm just going to insert a picture. Let's see, what is the first thing that comes to my mind? Candy. Okay, this looks like it has a plain white background. It does. Okay, so this is a good picture to work with because the background is a solid color. It can be any color really, because I'm going to use the Set Transparent Color option to make this white disappear. So we're going to go to the Format tab, Recolor button, and click Set Transparent Color, and the next color I click will be completely transparent. Sometimes it leaves a little bit if it's like really close to the object. Sometimes it doesn't, but I'd say this worked out quite well. And there you go, the background is removed. Okay, not too bad. So it's the Set Transparent Color option. One topic that I have brought up during our time with desktop publishing is font categories or different font styles. We have serif, sans serif, and one that I had you all apply to the award activity called script fonts. So anyway, first off we have serif fonts. Okay, remember, these aren't the names of fonts. However, they're different types. So if I just apply Times New Roman to this, I'll zoom in a little bit, we can see that on the ends of this S and on the ends of the R, we see serifs. These little strokes or tails sticking out of the ends of certain letters are called serifs. So serif fonts are said to help guide readers' eyes along a line, especially in print. So they are particularly useful in print. Sans serif fonts, which this term means without serif, do not contain serifs on the ends of any letters. So Comic Sans, or the full name Comic Sans MS, named after Microsoft, is a, in my opinion, great example of a sans serif font, although others may feel differently, but it is a sans serif font regardless. And sans serif fonts tend to be more readable in general on computer screens or online than they are in print, because particularly years ago when monitors weren't as clear as they are now, the serifs can cause letters to blend a little too much together. So that's why sans serif fonts tend to be popular on computer screens. Nowadays, monitors are pretty clear, but anyway, that's what's said. And script fonts are neither serif nor sans serif. They resemble cursive handwriting. Let's see if I can find a script font just by going down here. Oh, here's one. A number of script fonts have the word script in them, much like Comic Sans has the word sans in it. There we go. It resembles cursive handwriting. That's a script font. So those are 3 font categories. And as designers, which of course we all are, it is important to remember what they are and know what their differences are and when they can be used. So anyway, enough about that. Let me just go back to the shape for a second. So we see here that I filled the shape with a gradient. What else can we fill a shape with? Just about anything that comes to our mind. We can fill it with a texture. We can fill it with a pattern, although I don't really like these because it's weird on your eyes to stare at, so I'm just going to not do that. And we can also fill it with a picture. We can fill it with a picture from our computer, or we could search for one. In the spirit of Halloween, I choose this one. Here we go. So, one aspect of the award and of the newsletter that we made use of was the master page, one aspect of Publisher. Although to see this more clearly, I'm just going to eliminate the background. Oh, well, the text is still there. Not that it really matters at this point, but the master page feature can be viewed by going to the View tab and then clicking Master Page. So just think of it as viewing the master page. Okay, in this section, we can do a couple things. We can embed something into the background so it's not clickable normally, so we don't have to worry about it afterwards. Or we can insert a footer at the bottom, or a header. A header is something that appears at the top of every page. A footer is something that appears at the bottom of every page. A head and a foot, top and bottom. That is so clever. So here is a footer. Okay, we made use of this for the newsletter. Okay, it appears on every page unless if I'm inserting a page number and I don't want it to show on the first page, I just uncheck that. But for the most part, footers appear at the bottom of each page because everything on the master page appears on every page. And there I go again, using the word page quite a bit, but that's okay. You know what? I think I'll change this to landscape orientation, just so it's wider. So we can use the master page to place a header or footer, and we also utilized it to embed a picture into the background. Let's see. Well, it's a little bit early for Santa to come to town, but that's okay. Here he comes. So say I want this as the background. Say I want it as a watermark, more specifically. You can right click, format picture, turn the transparency to, let's say, 90, and there we go. So those are the two things we use the master page for the award and for the newsletter project. I'll close this master page, and you can see that neither of these things is clickable unless I go back to that section of Publisher, unless I go back to the master page section. So I'm all done with my project. What a work of art it is. Now, preferably, we should be saving and naming our file as soon as we start it, even if it's blank, just so from there on out we can just press Control S. But anyway, we should be aware of what type of file we're actually saving. So if I was to just save this here, in my Publisher folder, there is a little bit more to this name here than meets the eye. It actually has an extension on it. Oh, look, and you can see it right there, .pub, pub, for Publisher. So what actually is that? What is an extension? An extension indicates a type of file. So after every file name on a computer, there is a dot and a few letters afterwards to indicate what type of file it is. You don't actually see it, though, because it's normally hidden unless you manually choose to view it. But as far as the computer is concerned, it's there. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the folder that this file is saved to. And what I'm going to do is go to the folder options, call File Explorer options in Windows 10. And I'm going to go to the View tab. I'm not going to ask you to do this, I'm just showing you this for kicks. And I'm going to check off, or I should say uncheck, Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Click Apply, and we can see that the extension appeared at the end of this file name. So if I was to delete that extension or change it to something else, the computer wouldn't know to open this with Publisher, and I might not be able to use the file at all until I change it back to .pub. So that's why extensions are normally hidden, because a lot of people just either don't know what they are or prefer not to mess with them for a good reason. So I'll just check that off again. Excuse that. So I'll just check that off again, click apply, and now the extension disappears. Now I don't have to worry about it. But we should be aware of what kind of file it is we're saving. We're saving a publisher file, and has the extension pub. So every type of file that we will save in this class, and any other class really, has a file extension. Now a folder, like the publisher folder I'm in, folders do not have extensions. Okay, so that's good to know. And that about wraps things up with Microsoft Publisher. So now that we have gone over some important things, in addition to everything else that's been said, either in class or remotely, I'm sure you will be well prepared for the Publisher test.